The EU Green Deal wants to make Europe carbon neutral by 2050, and this would include carbon taxes and standards for industry. The problem is this can result in what's called carbon leakage, which is when companies see this as too expensive and move production to other countries. So one way to stop carbon leakage is by applying a carbon tax to imported products too. That is border carbon adjustment. The policy is still in the planning stages, so it could be a tax on all imports or just some carbon-intensive imports like cement and steel. We don't know yet how this would affect different countries, so we asked students from the Willy Brandt School of Public Policy to simulate impacts. Let's see what they have to say.
Morocco is heavily dependent on trade with the EU, which exposes it to negative effects from a carbon border adjustment tax. But its energy-intensive exports to the EU are minimal, so if only those products were taxed, Morocco would avoid exposure. It would also be vulnerable to this tax because of the high carbon intensity of its energy matrix, with an 88% fossil fuel share in total energy. That makes all of its exports have a significant carbon footprint.
So the first one is about the strategic technical cooperation to facilitate investment flows and to build institutional capacity to better manage this transition. The second one is the application of carbon border adjustment tax only to the energy-intensive export sector, which we believe could foster a better cooperation between the parties. The third one is regarding the Moroccan government, making the conditions more favorable for renewables investment through a tax reform within the country, and this will increase economic prosperity.
Two main recommendations. The first one is that Guatemala complies with the national target of emission reduction. This target is already established on Guatemala's National Energy Plan. We recommend that Guatemala installs a command and control system for two main sectors or industry. The first one is the mining industry, and the second one is the electricity production sector. The second proposal that we came up with is that Guatemala continues to increase the share of renewables. So our recommendation is to keep following the policies that have brought Guatemala to this case. So basically, Guatemala should keep on pushing three main regulatory and policy systems taken until now. The first one is the technical standard for renewable distributed generation and auto producers with excess of energy, net metering as well. The second one is the renewable energy actions, which have proven to increase the share of renewables into the system worldwide. The third one is to keep on incentivizing the law for the development of renewable energy projects. And then a fourth new recommendation is that Guatemala should really incentivize more solar projects. We base this estimation on the fact that about 40% of Guatemala's territory has a high photovoltaic power potential of about 1,800 kilowatts per hour. Furthermore, Guatemala advises to the Commission to favor the second policy approach, the approach to only tax the carbon-intensive products. Moreover, a tax focused on carbon-intensive products may have proven to be more efficient. Why? Because they would only hinder the trade on one type of products and not on all products.
For instance, the Institute of Energy and the Electrical Regulatory Authority of Vietnam are both subsidiaries of the Ministry of Industry and Trade. This creates conflicts of interests and have caused a complete lack of regulation in the coal and oil sectors. Other energy sectors are also subject to very minimal regulation. While Vietnam has a high potential for renewable energy, it has a relatively low installed capacity for solar and wind. Changes in Vietnam's power purchasing agreement reduce the attractiveness for foreign direct investment in renewable energy.
The first recommendation that we highlight here is making the Institute of Energy and the Electrical Regulatory Authority of Vietnam fully independent from the Ministry of Industry and Trade. Secondly, Vietnam needs to expand its renewable energy production by utilizing the current potential. This will help reduce its dependency on fossil fuels and Thus, it will also reduce its vulnerability against the proposed EU border carbon tax. To do this, Vietnam should request for affordable tech transfer from the EU. So on a final note, we suggest that since EU and Vietnam are good partners in trade, Vietnam should request for a transition period of 10 to 15 years for certain goods, which might get affected from the proposed tax. Transition period will not only help Vietnam to improve its economy, but it will also help to achieve its carbon neutral target.
Mozambique is already in a very good development path. Production is very low carbon intense, by 3 times lower than the EU. And over 85% of its electricity comes from renewable sources. So we believe that the border carbon adjustment wouldn't be harmful for the Mozambique, and in fact, the country could even better off and gain competitive advantage over other producers because of its very low carbon content of its products. Therefore, we recommend that Mozambique keeps in this low carbon path and expand its production. Then 3 recommendations for that. First, it's to improve its statistical capacity in order to prove the low carbon content of its products. Second, to use this competitive advantage and increase its production in a sustainable basis. And third, to expand simultaneously access to electricity and to clean cooking, which are still very low.